Stop thinking you already know how attraction works, because what I'm about to reveal will completely shatter everything you thought you knew. Forget the cliches, forget the flashy advice, and forget what everyone else has been telling you. This is real, raw, and it will change the way you see relationships forever. I'm going to show you the one habit that makes younger women addicted to older men, not in a shallow way, not because of money or looks, but because of a power so subtle, so invisible, that most men don't even realize it exists. By the time this video is over, you'll see attraction in a way that feels shocking, almost unfair, and you'll understand why women are drawn to certain men without being able to explain it. You might think you need to be flashy, exciting, or charming to hold her attention, but that's a trap. Real influence, real desire, and real loyalty come from something far deeper, something almost no one talks about. It's not taught, it's not obvious, and it's not glamorous, but it works. And the crazy part is that anyone can learn it if they're willing to see the truth and act on it. So stay with me, because I'm going to break down every single layer of this invisible force. By the end, you'll know exactly what it is, how it works, and how to cultivate it in yourself. This isn't theory. This isn't opinion. This is the psychological, emotional, and strategic truth behind why some men are unforgettable, magnetic, and impossible to resist, and why most others get ignored. Watch closely, because this one habit will make you stand out in ways you never imagined. If you miss this, you'll keep wondering why attraction always seems to slip through your fingers. But if you stay, you'll see the invisible pattern that changes everything, and you'll learn how to use it for yourself. You need to understand something that most people completely miss when it comes to attraction and connection. Younger women are not addicted to money, status, or even charm. All of those things are temporary. They create excitement, they create sparks, but they do not create an invisible force that keeps someone coming back, keeps someone thinking about you when you are not there. The force I am talking about is subtle, almost imperceptible at first, yet once it takes hold, it is relentless. It is the one thing that makes a younger woman addicted to an older man, or anyone who truly understands it. And that thing is consistency. Consistency is misunderstood. Most people think of it as boring, as predictable, as something mundane. They confuse it with routine or stagnation. But consistency, in the way we are talking about it, is powerful, magnetic, and irresistible. It is a demonstration of strength, discipline, and self-control. It tells a woman without words that you are someone she can rely on, someone who is unshaken by the chaos around you. And the human mind, especially the emotional mind, craves that more than anything else. We are wired to respond to reliability. Excitement may draw attention, but stability creates attachment. Excitement can be replaced by someone new in a moment, but consistency cannot be replicated. Think about it. How often do you see women drawn to men who show up repeatedly, not because they have to, not because they are seeking approval, but simply because that is who they are? A man who makes promises and keeps them, a man who honors his word, not selectively, but every single time, a man whose actions align with his words. That alignment is rare. It is so rare that it becomes almost addictive to witness. Women feel it subconsciously. They sense a man who is steady, who is unshakable, who is unwavering in his habits and his principles. That feeling creates desire, creates trust, and eventually creates dependence, not in a manipulative way, but in a natural psychological way. When a younger woman meets a man who is consistent, something changes in her perception of him immediately. She starts noticing the details she never noticed before. How he responds when life is inconvenient, how he treats people when no one is watching, how he follows through on small commitments, not just grand gestures. These are the things that build invisible attraction. The human brain is always scanning for reliability, for cues that someone is trustworthy and strong. It does not matter if a man is physically impressive or financially successful, if he is unpredictable, inconsistent, or emotionally volatile. That volatility undermines everything. On the other hand, even small, consistent habits create a sense of safety, a sense of predictability that women find deeply satisfying without even realizing it. Consistency also shows discipline, and discipline is attractive on a level most people cannot even articulate. Discipline signals mastery, mastery over one's emotions, one's actions, one's life, and the mind is drawn to mastery. Women are naturally attracted to men who are not controlled by impulses, who can regulate themselves, who show restraint and intentionality. These traits are rare in the modern world, which is full of distractions, instant gratification, and fleeting attention spans. When a man demonstrates that he is consistent, he is showing that he is deliberate, that he values himself and his time, that he operates on his own terms rather than reacting to the chaos of life. That is incredibly compelling. The beauty of consistency is that it works in every context. It does not matter if you are meeting someone for the first time or you have been in a relationship for years. It does not matter if you are communicating in person, through messages, or across long distances. The principle is the same. Repeated, reliable actions create a sense of comfort and familiarity, and the human mind responds to that with fascination, respect, and yes, a kind of emotional dependence. When a younger woman senses that she can predict a man's behavior in a way that aligns with her own sense of emotional security, she begins to trust him on a deeper level. And trust is the foundation of all lasting attraction. Many people overlook this because they are focused on short-term results. They chase instant excitement, drama, or fleeting passion, and they mistake those things for connection. The truth is that connection is built over time, quietly, subtly, invisibly, through small, consistent actions that are repeated until they become undeniable. It is the slow accumulation of reliability that creates something profound, something a woman cannot explain in words but can feel in every interaction. It is almost like a gravitational pull. She is drawn to you not because of what you say, but because of what you do again and again without fail. That is the power of one habit. Consistency. So, if you want to understand how to truly capture attention, create loyalty, and become unforgettable, start with this. Examine your own life, your own habits, your own reliability. Are you consistent in your words, in your actions, in your presence? Or are you chaotic, unpredictable, and unreliable? Women are looking for the former, not the latter. They are drawn to the man who shows up, not once, not twice, but again and again, who proves through repetition that he is someone worth trusting, worth admiring, and ultimately worth being addicted to. Remember this: consistency is not boring. It is a weapon. It is not predictable. It is irresistible. It is not weak. It is the foundation of power. One habit executed over time will set you apart in ways that charm, looks, or money never can. If you can master this, you are no longer just a man in a woman's life. You become a force she cannot forget, a presence she cannot resist, and a standard she cannot ignore. And that is the kind of impact that lasts. You need to understand that consistency alone is not enough. It is powerful, yes, but it is only part of the story. What truly makes a younger woman addicted, what creates that invisible pull that she cannot explain, is the deeper signal that consistency sends: strength, control, and unshakable presence. When a man is consistent, he is not merely repeating actions, he is demonstrating mastery over himself and over the circumstances of his life. And mastery is magnetic. It is attractive on a level that is almost primal, something women feel in their bones long before they can even name it. Strength and control are not about aggression, dominance, or intimidation. They are not about power in the traditional superficial sense. They are about presence, emotional presence, mental clarity, and the ability to remain grounded no matter what is happening around you. A man who is in control of himself is reliable, predictable in a way that feels safe, yet confident enough to remain mysterious. This combination is irresistible. Women are drawn not just to what you do, but to the energy you carry. They are drawn to calmness in chaos, to steadiness when the world is unstable, to a sense of security that is almost hypnotic. Consider how often people confuse confidence with control. Many men think confidence is loud, flashy, and aggressive. They believe that showing power means taking over, dominating, or constantly proving themselves. But real control, the kind that creates addiction, is quiet. It is subtle. It does not need an audience. It is consistent. It is the man who does not panic when things go wrong, who does not react impulsively to emotion, and who holds himself together even when everything around him is falling apart. That is strength. That is control. That is magnetic. When a younger woman encounters this, she feels it immediately. She may not be able to articulate why, but she is drawn to it like a moth to light. She notices how he carries himself in difficult situations. She notices how he makes decisions without being swayed by fear, anger, or outside opinion. She notices how he keeps his promises, how he maintains composure when others lose theirs, and how he makes life feel more predictable, more safe, more grounded. This is the kind of presence that becomes addictive. It is invisible, yet undeniable. It creates a gravitational pull that is stronger than charm, humor, or even physical attraction. Control is also intimately linked to respect. A man who demonstrates self-control earns respect naturally. He does not need to demand it or assert it through words or displays. Respect is earned through repeated actions and the ability to manage oneself. When a woman sees a man who respects himself enough to stay disciplined, consistent, and unshakable, she cannot help but respect him too. And respect combined with admiration is a potent mix that fuels attraction and eventually attachment. Strength and control also create a sense of security. This does not mean you are controlling her or her life. It means that your own life is controlled, that your actions are managed, that your actions are deliberate. When a woman senses that she is in the presence of a man who is steady, she experiences a psychological relief. She does not have to guess how he will react. She does not have to wonder if he will crumble under pressure, and she does not have to question whether he will follow through on what he says. That relief, that feeling of safety is addictive. Humans are wired to seek safety, and women, consciously or unconsciously, gravitate toward it. There is a philosophical depth to this as well. Strength and control are the embodiment of mastery over the self. They reflect the understanding that life is unpredictable, but that you do not have to be, that you can remain grounded, centered, and deliberate, even when the world is chaotic. Most people are swept away by their emotions, by circumstances, by external pressures. Most people react impulsively, make decisions based on temporary feelings, and allow their environment to dictate their state of mind. A man who is in control, who is disciplined, who is steady, becomes a beacon in that chaos. And that beacon is magnetic. It draws people in, commands attention, and creates attachment without a single word being spoken. This is why strength and control are so important in relationships and attraction. They amplify the power of consistency. A man may be consistent in his actions, but if he is emotionally unstable, reactive, or easily shaken, that consistency loses its power. But when consistency is combined with presence, control, and emotional mastery, it becomes irresistible. It signals that this man is capable, reliable, and confident, not superficially, but on a deep, almost subconscious level. Women are not just attracted to what he does, but to the energy he carries, the signals he sends, and the unspoken promise that he is in command of his life. The most shocking thing about this is that it does not require perfection. It does not require wealth, fame, or extraordinary talent. It requires awareness and practice. It requires showing up, being present, managing your emotions, and aligning your actions with your value. It requires mastering the art of self-control, understanding the power of deliberate behavior, and carrying yourself with steady confidence. And that is something any man can cultivate if he chooses to. So if you want to create a magnetic presence, if you want to become the kind of man younger women find addictive, do not focus on superficial tactics. Focus on yourself. Focus on building control over your emotions, over your habits, over your reactions. Focus on being steady, consistent, and unshakable in the face of life's unpredictability. That is where true power lies. That is what commands respect, admiration, and attraction simultaneously. You have to understand that attraction is not built in moments. It is built in patterns. Many people make the mistake of believing that a grand gesture, a dramatic display, or a single act of charm can create long-lasting influence. That is a lie we are fed by movies, social media, and superficial advice. Real, deep, irresistible attraction is not a one-time event. It is a process. It is a slow accumulation of repeated, small, deliberate actions that build a sense of trust, admiration, and yes, addiction. And this is where habits come in. Small habits repeated consistently over time are more powerful than anything flashy you could do in a single moment. Think about it. What sticks in your memory, the big dramatic moments, are exciting at the time, but they fade. What remains are patterns, the little things someone does repeatedly that signal reliability, stability, and care. When a younger woman encounters a man who demonstrates these habits, she begins to notice the subtle cues that indicate he is in command of his life. She notices the way he consistently follows through, the way he shows up when he says he will, the way he maintains his calm in chaos, and the way he treats her and others with steady respect. These small, repeated actions are invisible to the casual observer, but they are not invisible to her. They create a sense of security, admiration, and emotional investment that grows stronger with each repetition. This is why habits are more powerful than charm. Charm is immediate, it produces a spark, but it is fleeting. Habits are cumulative, they create a magnetic pull over time. A man who is disciplined in his habits, who shows up reliably, and who manages his emotions consistently creates an invisible framework of trust and attraction around himself. Women may not be able to articulate why they feel drawn, but they feel it nonetheless. Their subconscious is absorbing the signals of stability and reliability, and that absorption builds a form of attachment that is hard to break. Consider the philosophical depth of this idea. Life is inherently chaotic, unpredictable, and unstable. Most people are reactive. They respond to circumstances, emotions, and external pressures. But a man who builds habits is proactive. He creates a predictable structure in an unpredictable world. He becomes a stabilizing force, not just in his own life, but in the lives of those around him. This stability is rare, and humans, especially women in a romantic context, are naturally drawn to it. It is almost like a gravitational force. The more steady and deliberate his actions, the stronger the pull she feels toward him. Small habits also communicate self-respect and self-discipline. When a man takes care of his responsibilities, honors his commitments, and maintains a consistent routine, he is demonstrating mastery over his life. He is showing that he values his own time, energy, and integrity. Women are subconsciously attracted to mastery because it signals competence, reliability, and security. Habits are not just behaviors, they are statements about who you are, what you value, and how you operate in the world. Every time you act in alignment with your principles, you reinforce your presence, your influence, and your magnetic appeal. Another critical point is that small, repeated habits create predictability in a way that feels safe. Women are naturally scanning for cues that someone can be trusted. They are assessing, often subconsciously, whether a man's actions will align with his words, whether he will remain steady under pressure, and whether they can rely on him for stability. Flashy gestures or dramatic declarations may attract attention in the short term, but they do not create the long-term sense of safety and reliability that repeated habits do. Consistency in actions, no matter how small, communicates a foundation for deep emotional attachment. Habits also have an exponential effect. One small act of consistency may not seem significant, but when it is repeated day after day, week after week, month after month, it compounds into something powerful. Imagine a man who consistently shows respect, follows through on commitments, and maintains his presence without fail. Over time, these small actions create an invisible bond. The woman begins to notice not only what he does, but the pattern, the predictability, and the reliability of it all. That pattern creates fascination, trust, and eventually emotional dependence. She begins to feel a sense of comfort, admiration, and attachment that is not based on superficial qualities, but on the deep, consistent habits he has cultivated. The shocking truth most people miss is that attraction is more psychological than physical. The mind craves patterns, stability, and predictability. When a man embodies these qualities through his habits, he is appealing to the deepest layers of human perception. Women are not just responding to his appearance or charm, they are responding to the structure, the consistency, and the mastery reflected in his actions. This is why older men often have an advantage in attraction. They understand the power of habits, the importance of consistency, and the psychological pull of reliability. They know that small, repeated behaviors create loyalty and desire far more effectively than charm, words, or wealth. The key takeaway is this: if you want to be irresistible, if you want to create influence and attachment that lasts, Focus on habits, focus on what you do repeatedly, not just what you do dramatically. Build reliability into your life, discipline into your actions, and consistency into your presence. Show up, follow through, and maintain your integrity. Over time, these small actions will compound into something almost magical. Women will notice, often subconsciously. They will be drawn to you not because of what you say, but because of who you are as demonstrated through your habits. You have to realize that excitement alone does not create loyalty. Many people believe that if they can create intense moments, thrilling experiences, or dramatic gestures, they will hold someone's attention forever. That is a dangerous misconception. Excitement is temporary, it is fleeting, it lights up the mind for a moment, but it fades quickly, leaving nothing behind but emptiness or boredom. What truly keeps a woman invested, what creates emotional attachment that lasts, is reliability, being someone she can count on when it matters most. Reliability, predictability, and steady presence are what transform curiosity into deep respect and admiration into devotion.
Women are naturally drawn to excitement. Yes.
It triggers their emotions, captures their attention, and makes interactions feel vibrant. But attraction that is based solely on excitement is shallow and unstable. It is like chasing a firework in the sky. It dazzles you, but when it disappears, there is nothing left. Reliability, on the other hand, creates a foundation that no amount of novelty can shake. It creates a sense of security, and security, even if it is unspoken, is far more addictive than temporary thrills. A man who demonstrates consistency and dependability communicates that he is anchored in himself, in his principles, and in the world. That is far more attractive than someone who only promises excitement. Think about it philosophically. Life is unpredictable, chaotic, and full of unforeseen challenges. Most people are reactive. They seek thrills to escape reality or to mask uncertainty. But a man who is reliable shows mastery over himself and over circumstances. He does not get swept away by emotions or external chaos. He does not disappear when things get tough. He remains grounded. He shows up, follows through, and maintains his presence even when the world is unstable. That kind of stability is rare, and rarity creates value. It signals to women that they are in the presence of someone who can handle life, who is capable of commitment, and who is worthy of trust. Reliability also communicates emotional intelligence. It shows that a man understands the long game of relationships and connection. He knows that fleeting moments of excitement do not build real bonds. He knows that true influence comes from actions that align with words, repeated consistently over time. When a woman sees a man who does not bend under pressure, who does not disappear when things are inconvenient, she experiences a deep psychological relief. That relief is powerful. It creates admiration, respect, and ultimately a sense of emotional dependence. She begins to feel safe, valued, and invested, not because he entertains her, but because he proves through repeated action that he is reliable. Here is another layer to consider: predictability in a man's actions is not boring, it is magnetic. Most people equate predictability with dullness, but there is a profound difference between someone who is boring and someone who is reliably steady. A man who is predictable in his values, habits, and responses is not dull. He is dependable. He communicates strength, stability, and control. A younger woman does not consciously think, "I am attracted to his reliability." Instead, she experiences it emotionally as a sense of comfort and trust that grows stronger over time. This emotional response is far more compelling than the excitement as a fleeting thrill. Reliability also signals respect, not only for her, but for himself and for life. A man who keeps his word, who follows through on commitments, and who maintains his presence demonstrates that he values his own integrity. And when someone respects themselves, it becomes almost impossible not to respect them in return. This is a subtle form of attraction that operates on a deep psychological level. Women are drawn to men who are disciplined, principled, and deliberate in their actions. They are drawn to men who understand that loyalty is earned through repeated, consistent behavior, not promised through words or fleeting gestures. The most shocking thing is that many men overlook this. They chase attention. They try to create drama. They rely on flashy displays to impress. But attention is temporary. Drama is exhausting. Flashy gestures may turn heads in the moment, but they do not create lasting emotional bonds. What creates devotion is simple: reliability. It is showing up when it matters. It is following through, even when it is inconvenient. It is maintaining composure, presence, and consistency when everyone else disappears or fails. That is the invisible force that turns casual attraction into genuine obsession, curiosity into loyalty, and admiration into emotional investment. Reliability also compounds over time. One act of dependability may not seem significant, but repeated consistently, it builds an invisible architecture of trust and attachment. A woman notices patterns, not isolated moments. She begins to see a man as someone who can be counted on, someone who is in control of himself, and someone who can navigate life's unpredictability with stability and confidence. That pattern creates fascination and a subtle, almost irresistible pull. She may not even be able to explain why she feels drawn to him, but she feels it nonetheless. So the lesson here is profound but simple. Do not confuse excitement with influence. Do not rely on novelty, charm, or dramatic gestures to hold attention. Focus on being reliable. Focus on creating patterns of dependability in your life. Show up, follow through, and maintain your presence no matter the circumstances. That is the secret to turning attraction into deep, lasting attachment. Everything we've discussed so far, the power of consistency, the magnetic force of strength and control, the quiet accumulation of habits, the unshakable reliability, leads to this final truth. One habit executed deliberately can change everything. It may sound simple, almost too simple to be true, but that is precisely why most men overlook it. They search for complicated strategies, flashy gestures, or dramatic moves to gain attention or admiration. They fail to see that the most powerful tool they already have is themselves and the actions they take every single day. One habit repeated consistently has the power to make a younger woman addicted, not in a superficial sense, but in a way that touches her emotions, her mind, and her perception of security. This habit is not about manipulation. It is not about creating dependency through deception or charm. It is about aligning your actions with your principles, being deliberate in your behavior, and showing up in a way that demonstrates mastery over yourself and your life. When a man cultivates this habit, it communicates an invisible yet undeniable message. He is someone who is steady, reliable, and in control. He is someone whose presence creates calm in chaos, whose actions signal reliability, and whose energy inspires trust and adoration. That is the habit that makes him unforgettable. Consider the psychological implications. Human beings are pattern seeking creatures. We do not just respond to single moments, we respond to repetition. The brain notices consistency, the mind registers reliability, and emotions grow attached to behaviors that demonstrate stability over time. When a man consistently acts with self discipline, follows through on his commitments, and maintains a grounded presence, he is not just performing actions, he is creating a framework for emotional attachment. That framework is invisible, yet it exerts a gravitational pull. A younger woman may not consciously articulate why she is drawn to him, but her emotions recognize it immediately. She feels safe, she feels valued, and she begins to invest emotionally in a way that cannot be replicated by fleeting excitement or superficial charm. The philosophical depth of this habit is profound. Life is unpredictable, chaotic, and often unfair. Most people are swept away by circumstance, by emotion, by the opinions of others. A man who develops the habit of consistency and deliberate action chooses a different path. He takes ownership of his life. He does not allow external factors to dictate his state of mind, his behavior, or his presence. He becomes the anchor in a world of instability. That anchoring effect is magnetic. Women, consciously or unconsciously, are drawn to it because it signals strength, security, and competence. They feel it even if they cannot explain it. It creates an emotional dependency that is healthy, natural, and irresistible. This habit also reflects mastery over oneself. When a man controls his actions, manages his emotions, and aligns his behavior with his principles, he is demonstrating mastery at the deepest level. Mastery is attractive, it signals competence, reliability, and integrity. It is a skill and language that communicates more than words ever could. Women are drawn to it because it is rare, because it is powerful, and because it offers a sense of certainty in a world that is often uncertain. The habit of deliberate, consistent action is a reflection of this mastery. It says without words that he is in charge of himself, and that is the quality that commands respect, admiration, and emotional investment. The most shocking aspect of this habit is its simplicity. It does not require wealth, social status, or extraordinary talent. It does not require grand gestures or constant attention. What it requires is awareness and commitment, awareness of your actions, awareness of your impact, and the commitment to repeat deliberate behaviors until they become a defining part of who you are. Every time you act with integrity, follow through on a promise, or maintain composure when it is inconvenient, you reinforce this habit. Over time, these small repeated actions compound into something almost magical. They create a presence that is impossible to ignore, a standard that others naturally respect, and a pull that women find irresistible. This is why older men or men who have cultivated self discipline and mastery often have a magnetic effect on younger women. They understand that attraction is not created through novelty or superficial charm. They understand that real influence comes from the repeated, deliberate execution of small, consistent actions. They know that one habit performed with purpose and consistency builds loyalty, admiration, and desire in ways that nothing else can. And that is the key insight. You do not need to be extraordinary in every moment, but you do need to be deliberate in every action. It is also important to understand that this habit creates more than just attraction. It builds influence, it builds respect, it builds a reputation that precedes you. People notice when you act consistently, follow through on your commitments, and maintain composure and reliability over time. Those small, deliberate actions accumulate into an invisible authority. Women are drawn not only to what you do, but to who you are as reflected through your habits. That is why one habit, cultivated and executed intentionally, has the power to change everything. So, the takeaway is simple but profound. Focus on building this habit. Focus on aligning your actions with your principles, on being deliberate in your behavior, and on showing up consistently in all areas of life. Recognize that the small actions repeated over time are more powerful than any grand gesture, charm, or superficial display. Understand that attraction, loyalty, and emotional investment are built through patterns, not moments. And embrace the idea that one habit executed consistently will make you unforgettable, magnetic, and impossible to ignore. One habit repeated with purpose is more powerful than words, more compelling than charm, and more magnetic than any superficial attraction. Cultivate it, embody it, and let it define you. Begin today and become the man who is unforgettable, irresistible, and impossible to ignore.